in the kitchen, I think. Anyway, I think, am I actually live? I don't even know if I'm actually live. Hang on a minute. I don't even know if I'm actually live. Oh, I am live. Here we go. Discarded telepathy is in the house. How are you doing, discarded telepathy? All good? Let's see if anyone else joins. Otherwise, I'll have a party on my own. Which is fine. I can do parties on my own. Oh, 2 people. That's exciting. If you're in the stream, say hi. Let me see who's there. And let's continue with 2 people. This is a Friday evening. Everyone's probably doing other more interesting stuff. But anyway, yeah, what I thought I'd do is I'd start off by running through the song. So let's just have a listen first, and then I'll break it down a little bit. Little early for that in Texas. Little early for what, sir? Yeah. Anyway, that was the track played through again, and yeah, let's just quickly run through some of the sections here. So, if we start by looking at the structure, I've got basically like I do everything in 16 bar blocks always, and we have like a main sort of intro that's like sort of just setting the scene, I guess, like a little bit of a soundscape. And then our second part here is where we start to like build up. And this is where like we bring in our little vocal as well. And that sort of repeats and starts to like add in a little bit of tension here. You know what I mean? And then we have a drop basically on the 32 bars. Hello Rick Ruckus. Cheers to you, sir. Don't believe we've met. I can't really recall seeing your name here, but welcome along. And yeah, so I've got my first 16 drop here, and this is like the unmastered version. This is like the project that I was composing in before like I mastered it. So it's like not quite exactly sounding the same, but basically it's the same composition. And yeah, the reason I played it before like on my iTunes was because I was worried that it will cut out because the project's quite full and my Logic sometimes like cuts out, so I don't want to put you guys through that misery. Then the second 16 here, like let's see, I told you it's going to happen, you know. Yeah, second 16 like kind of just rolls through. A little bit of energy kind of taken out in a sense, and then third part sort of like a half-time kind of beat here. You actually take out the snare, like kind of replace the snare for like more of a click or a clap, so it's like less like in your face. And then I've got the next 16 is basically just like a little breakdown first half, and then like another build up straight away, so kind of drops down into a breakdown pretty quickly. And then here we just bring back in like our sort of drum fills, and bring that vocal back in a little bit. And then we go into our second drop, which is basically using the same textures and same elements, but just the rhythm is different, and it's more of a sort of funkier, offbeat kind of drum rhythm. So it's like basically just rearranging the same elements to fit them in like in a weirder kind of composition. Like it throws you off a little bit. It's a little bit like stuttering. And thanks, Discarded Telepathy. He said telepathy says the breakdown is awesome. Really gives us a sense of a huge warehouse. That's cool. I didn't think of it like that, but that's a nice way to describe it. Rudy Loops sounds naughty. Appreciate that, man. And yeah, then after this sort of choppy kind of section here, it goes into that final kind of rolling out section, which is also has that kind of same rhythm. Like it's also got that sort of like choppy kind of drum rhythm to it. And then the little outro here is quite simple. Nothing special there, just sort of fading out some of like the main textures and elements. But if we sort of have a little look over the groups and things then, so I have like my drums here, obviously, and if I actually expand out all of these groups, you can have a little look at like how many channels there are, because it's a lot, and it could be scary maybe to look at. I certainly think it's quite terrifying to look at, but when I sort of collapse them all into groups, it's a little bit less frightening. But yeah, if you have a look now, like that's basically what the project looks like, and obviously there's quite a lot going on, and a lot of the like individual channels are like just extra layers, or like could be little delay layers or little reverb layers, because I don't really use like sends or anything like that, so that's also taking up a little bit of the the screen. So yeah, that's another reason. But yeah, if we collapse everything apart from like the drums, let's start off just by looking at those. And you can see, look at my cymbal group, it's pretty insane actually. I've gone pretty overboard with it. So wow, yeah, we could almost just have a little listen to the cymbals, just on the drop, for example. So it doesn't actually sound like this. there's that many there, but there is a lot in there. You've got a lot of like loops and like different hi-hat loops, different like ride loops, different like one shots and things like that. And a lot of them are like really, really low volume. So, you know, I've got this sort of cymbal here, for example. Like that's like just one ride hit, and like it's like -29. So it's super, super quiet. It's like layering up the background, kind of like one step at a time. So yeah, feel free to ask like any questions. Like I'm literally on here just for you guys to like pick my brain as well. So just ask me anything you want as well. But basically, yeah, there's a lot of like cymbals that all gel together. And what I then do on the group is like the main thing is like just a glue compressor, which basically just like when you have all of those cymbals, all the transients at the same time, like if it ever gets too loud, the compressor will just like make them a little bit quieter, so they slot into the background of the mix a bit more. So yeah, I don't think I really need to, and I apologise for the Logic always crashing. Like that was one thing I knew that would happen on this stream. So yeah, that's what happens when you look at my projects that are like from finished songs, because they all start, I always get to a point where it starts to crash out a little bit. But yeah, it's not really an issue for me. But yeah, that's, you can see here we have like an extra got my extra shaker that comes in. That's like the main sort of change to the drums in the second half, the second 16. And hello, Wiggles. Nice to see you. So yeah, the main change in the second 16 is like this shaker that comes in. But I almost like do this thing again where the energy of the track kind of slows down a bit. It's not as aggressive of a composition with the basses and stuff. It's a little bit more chilled. So if you listen, like kind of to the transition here, and I'll just mute these shakers. Oh dear. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. So the second 16, you'll notice the composition goes more up. It has a bit more breathing space. And we've got a few more people now. Yeah, smash that like button. Come on. Whoa, Logic Gang, represent. Smashed it. Yeah, everyone who's watching now, make sure you hit the like button. It's very important. Might get some more people to come along as well and watch me crash Logic. Anyway, yeah, so the composition here in the second 16, it kind of like chills out a bit. But then I add in the shakers, so it kind of speeds up again. So it's like kind of doing a bit of slowing down and speeding up at the same time, you know. And listen to these shakers. They have like a kind of nice distortion on them, and basically what that is I put like the Ruiner on them, and you know, free distortion plugin that I love, and you can just like dirty things up. with it. So like, but like in a sort of clean way. In a way, it's not like I'm making it really loud. It's just like I'm making it a bit more sort of lo-fi in a way, you know. Putting that like distorted signal into it kind of just like gives it a new texture that like helps it fit in and sound a bit more unique as well, and also fit into the mix a bit better. So yeah, that's like one more thing about the cymbals. But yeah, maybe like I don't know if it will be easier if I like freeze some of these tracks quickly. Maybe it'll like give us some extra like what's it called? Some extra CPU, because we don't need to talk about those anymore. So like, I'll quickly freeze them. It might help. It probably won't, but we'll give it a go. So let's freeze those guys quickly. Yeah, Ruiner is awesome, and I think I was just watching a video on like free distortion plugins. I think like with creative distortion plugins, I feel like there's so many that like there's so many free ones as well that like one of them would just have been good enough. Like I felt like I could easily find a free distortion plugin that I could just use for like multi-purpose things, and then I found Ruiner, and then I thought that's a great distortion to add like extra kind of like lo-fi textures and things like that, adding in some extra like different textures on top of the sound. So it's not like a saturation distortion where I'm like making the whole sound like louder. It's like adding in like a new layer of like texture like that kind of just sounds cool. And yeah, it looks like it's difficult to use, but it's really not. So anyway, we've frozen the cymbals. I'm not sure why I started talking with the cymbals, but I guess because it looked like there were so many, and I was like, why is there so many? But yeah, like I said, a lot of them are like really, really low in the mix as well. So they all kind of, blend together in a way. So let's look at the rest of the drums. You know, my cymbal bus goes into the output of the drums. So that those cymbals, like, although they're in their own group, the output will go into our drum group. And then the drum group has just like the rest of the sounds which have like low end in as well, because like with the cymbals I'll generally tend to like EQ the whole group just to make sure all the rumble's been like taken out. So I'll like EQ out all the low end of the cymbals again, making sure to leave some of the character in the like high mid-range area still in. Yes, discarded step 3, you should probably pick it up. Mid-side split in Logic is fun to play with on Distortion too. Mid-side split. I think I know what you mean. Ruiner and Pull Stretch texture. Yeah, two of the best plugins to use for textures, definitely. Oh, and my voice is a bit quiet, is it? I'm probably just not talking into the right side of the microphone, or it's the Santa sock. Anyway, I'll turn it up a little bit, but so let's listen to Yo, what's up, Mike in the house? Absolute legendary supporter. Big ups to you, mate. Always nice to see your comments. Very positive guy. And if you listen to the drums without the cymbals, shall we? So we've got obviously a main kick and a snare, and then there's a few like little off shot, one shot kind of things, a couple of clicks and claps, and a little like sort of perky bongo hits as well. But that main kick, just like one nice chunky powerful kick, nothing layered on it, it's just one nice good one. No, really. I don't often reverb drums, but because I guess this composition was like quite spacious and a bit slow, so I kind of needed to fill out the space a bit. So I did end up putting like a chroma verb on the whole group, but it's like at 2%, so it's a really small amount. but often I won't even reverb the drums. This is just like because it was a bit of a slower kind of track, I think. And we've got the snare is basically this sample and then a clap, and that's basically it. Just good choice of samples, and then yeah, there's this little like rim shotty kind of snare, and then here you can hear there's like another little clap here, and this clap's got like a nice echo on it. It's got a little bit of a like kind of delay effect you can hear. Has a nice like there's lots of little like fluttery delays with stereo information on a lot of the one shots that makes them a lot more interesting and fit into the mix better. And yeah, show some love and hit that mic button. Hit the mic button. Like Mike says, hit the like button. Yeah, so those like the main driving elements of the groove, like without the cymbals. And so like because some of these one shots have like a bit of low end in, that's why they're not in the cymbal group, because I want to keep that low end in, and the cymbal group has like the EQ on it that takes the low end out, so that's why it's separated, you know. But yeah, that cymbal group really like needs to be in there, you know. It provides all that background, and when I like go on to master the track, like some of those like small details in the cymbals like will be brought out a little bit more in like the high end, so like it's okay to keep it a little bit low because it's going to sort of exaggerate the high end later on anyway. But yeah, that's basically like the drums, and like in the intro I've got this like building up kick drum, but it's like super reverbed and like delayed and like all kinds of things. It's almost like not really like the same as like the main kick. Like it's a lot softer in the intro here, you know.
Just a minute now, give me the story.
Thanks, Logic. Again, just ruining my evening. Anyway, use Infiltrator at all? I think I've heard of Infiltrator, but no, I haven't used it. I don't actually own it. Is it good? Would be cool to check out. There's a lot of cool plugins that I have never used. But yeah, the more you have, the more confusing it starts to get as well. So yeah. Anyway, the drums. So like as I said, like the main two sections here are quite similar, except for that shaker coming in, which we talked about earlier. And then this third section, it goes into like a half time. I don't know if it's half time, it might be the same speed actually, but what I mean is that I take the snare out and it's just like, I have this clap in from earlier that was like a offbeat one shot, and now I'm just using that as like the main snare with one of the other snare layers. So it's like new combination of snare layers, but without the main one, basically. So that's like, that's taking out the energy a lot and preparing us for that, like for the breakdown, you know, because we're like actually taking the snare out, and the snare's like driving the whole song. So it's quite a big change for that section. And then, yeah, like I said, when we get into the second half, the groove changes. So it's the same like elements still, but just moved the position of the kick, as you can see. So obviously a normal two-step beat, you know, would be back here, which is how it was on the first drop. And then I just move this sort of one click to the right on these kicks, and we get that, I don't want to say clown steppy, I don't know what kind of rhythm that is, but yeah, a bit more of a throwing your kind of awareness off kind of rhythm. Cool. I will have to check out that Infiltrator. There are a lot, yeah. Kilohearts are great sound design tools as well. I think that, yeah, like we said before, Ruiner, Paul Stretch, also great ones. There's loads of other ones I've got that are probably free as well that I've forgotten about that are just as good. Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of what happens in the drums in the second part, and then here this last bit, keeping that offbeat kind of kick rhythm the same, and then doing what I did earlier and switching off the main snare and just having that sort of click and clap as the main rhythmic part there. So yeah, that's basically the drums. And as you see, like, I don't really like process them. Like, I don't do parallel distortion, parallel compression. I just keep them nice and clean and just choose the right samples. And there you go. Next up, then, let's talk about what I could do is I'll quickly try and freeze these drums as well. So it might like crash out a little bit less, because that is really annoying, especially when I don't want you guys to get annoyed that like is annoying enough for me, but for like everyone watching as well. It's like scaled frustration. But it's probably going to continue anyway, because this freezing doesn't seem to work anymore to help the situation these days. But yeah, I want to give you guys all a massive thank you, because like it's just amazing that I can talk about what I love and share music and stuff, and you guys are interested. Like, that is wicked. So appreciate you guys. And yeah, like, jumped over 3,000 subscribers already. Putting in that work, man. Like, literally 2 years or so. Started really hitting the YouTube hard during lockdown. Tried to keep it going. I was doing like 5 videos a week during like most of lockdown. I think I've got like 530 videos or something up now, like in the last 1 or 2 years, which is a lot. And it's been like a real grind, to be honest. But it's been enjoyable, and I appreciate all of you guys for being part of the journey, and it's wicked. And yeah, let's move on to the let's go to the bass next, shall we? So, wow, okay. You can see there's a lot. Oh, shout out my man Paul in the house, regular student. Track is too dank for your CPU to handle. Yeah, that's when I know that the track is like almost finished and ready to be mastered. It's like it just starts to crash out, and it's like, right, you've done all you can. You've layered up every single sound 7 times. You've got to move on. So, and you can see here, like, this is quite insane, but this is the amount of basses that I have. But like I said before, you know, a lot of them might be reverb layers or intro bits, or, you know, there's a lot of different one shots. And so what happens is I have like 2 different, like some basses will have like sub in them and some won't. And then like I'll have to make like a separate sub sometimes. So I think this horny sub is like yeah, one of the main like sub lines, and I think here is another sub as well. That horny sub is on my Vital Apocalypse pack, and we were just dealing with that on a lesson with Paul recently, and the Sub No More, we talked about that one as well, I think. Although I'm not sure if that's actually the same anymore. But yeah, I've got like a lot of different subs, and then I have like some basses where there's like no sub in, and then I like layer them together, and it's all a bit of a minefield. But the idea, I know that at each part during the track, there's only like one bass that has like a sub in it. So whether it's like already in there naturally, or if I'm like using one of these subs underneath to layer it together with a mid bass, it's, you know, there's never going to be like 2 sub basses like either way, you know. So let's have a little listen to like so what happens is I got these 2 groups, right? I don't know why it's 2 different groups. I think I know why. So this bass 2 group has like basses that have sub in, so I haven't like EQ'd them out, and this like mid bass group is like more the basses where they didn't have I took the sub out and layered them in with the ones underneath. You know, a little bit confusing, but yeah, you can see here I've EQ'd out Yeah, so these guys are like the main like mid basses with the character and everything. Yeah, so that's like more like the mid basses, and this is like more like the sub basses. But like there's a couple of sounds in there that's not really a sub, but it has a sub in, and I'm using the sub from in it, so I'm not EQing it out. And so, but they work together, you know. I love the bass design on this song. I think it's one of the best bass designs I've done, and pretty much all of the sounds I made in Phase Plant. And it was my like doing tutorials on Phase Plant and like experimenting with that and uploading the videos for you guys. Through doing all that, I built up like a collection, and a lot of the sounds are on the preset pack that I launched, like the Phase Plant Power one. And then I've just like tweaked them to like fit my composition. So like a lot of the sounds are like ones that I already kind of made for you guys that I've like, yeah, just used as well, you know, because why not? Apart from this main one, I kept this main one out of the pack because like this was kind of like my signature sound for this song, which is like my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite sound, and I've taken the low end out of it here because like it kind of worked better with the low end from like a sub from under here. Yeah, so I layered this like the horny sub underneath it. So like just by trial and error, there was no real like thinking behind it. It just sort of kind of sounded better when it was layered up. But yeah, this is the main sound that I was really happy with when I made it in Phase Plant, and then I wanted to like I basically made a little like random clip on Instagram with the like with a little animation with this bass, and it was just like a little loop that I did, and it performed like really well like on the Instagram algorithm. Like people really like watched that video a lot, so I thought, okay, that's a cool idea for a song then, if people like that sound. So I've done a lot of those little videos, and then like I will maybe use them to get ideas for like what would be a cool like song to make. And so this was one of those examples where I was like, all right, this could be the main feature of like a song. So I built basically the song around this exact like bass. So and my favourite part in the track is when you hear it again here. And I like really cut out space in the whole composition with the drums and everything. You can see here there's a big gap in the drums up here. So you get to hear that bass like really, really on its own, like in its full kind of entirety, like just randomly halfway through the song. And then like without the drums there, so it just like draws more attention to that sound because it's like my main character, basically, that sound. And there's like a lot of other cool basses as well. There was one called like the creaking floorboard or something at the beginning. Is it this one? Yeah, this one. It's got bass in as well, but again I decided to layer it up with a bass from underneath. So I got my horny sub underneath with that really cool like yeah, it sounds like a creaking floorboard, like going fast. Like I don't know how I even envisioned that in my head, but yeah, this song is just like a lot of sound design experiments like put together, and so it's all about the texture. And basically I was like trying to convince myself that I could write a cool song without using like a voice like Reebs. You know, the last two tracks I released were Grey and Helpless, with featuring Reebs, the female vocalist, and I centered everything around her voice. And I began to and the tracks were so good, like I love them and they did well, and I began to think like, can I actually make music again without like a vocalist that will still be good? So that was like my challenge for this. And so by, you know, the way that I got my head around it was to just do like loads of crazy sound design, loads of different sounds, and try and keep it really interesting that way, rather than like just using like the voice, which keeps it interesting, you know, without having to do like loads of sound design. So that was the idea. Anyway, thanks, Clock Mutant. Paul, appreciate you sharing your gift with the world. I mean, yeah, this is what it's all about. And Disguised Telepathy much appreciated for showing tracks like this. Not a lot of artists do this. Well, as Paul, who I taught earlier, he said we learn through teaching. So what's actually been integral to my growth as a producer has been sharing my knowledge. It's made me become better. So yeah, I feel like it's the right thing to do. Like sharing knowledge is only going to make you even better. It's a weird way that it works, but it just does. So yeah. Yeah, I could talk about the bases for ages, but it would end up being a very, very long night because there's so many of them. But I guess my main thing was having that main one that I just showed you. Yeah, Docendo Decimus, exactly. I guess having that main one that I showed you, the and that felt to me like an energy orb being cast or something, like, and that's why I did like the kind of visuals around like a energy orb kind of thing. So that was like the main character, and then all the other bases, they just kind of work around it, you know. And there's no like real magic to how I got that groove. It was just like trial and error, moving things around, cutting things out, leaving more space for the groove to be like kind of felt and things like that. So yeah, there we go. That's the mid basses. Let's freeze these guys up, and yeah, I could like I said, there's so many, and you know, we have them like all the way in the intro as well. If you listen to the intro of the song, you kind of get a taste for like all of the main like kind of basses that are going to come already in the intro. They're just like super reverbed out and things like that, so you get a little bit of a taste for them all like before you hear them on the drop. So that's like really important. Again, I always think of it like composition, like write the best songs, they have a narrative. And like a movie, it has like characters, and the characters also like progress and change like throughout the movie. You know, like say you have like a lead male actor who's like young, and he's like really timid and like scared in the beginning, like not quite so confident, like the guy, like the dude on Dune, for example. And then like through the like movie becomes like more like sure of himself and more like assertive and like stronger in a sense. And it's the same way I think about like the main sounds in my songs. You know, they can be like a little bit timid and quiet in the intro, and then like on the drop they'll like really be like, you know, you hear them like in their full kind of power, and then they might go through like a phase where they're like a little bit sort of lower energy again. And yeah, just having this idea of like a main sound that you use like throughout the track, but it's always like kind of going on its own storyline as well, kind of helps you to write the song a little bit better, like a little bit easier, just like thinking of it in that way. Yeah. So these basses are freezing, they're taking their time, but I hope they're going to be nice and cold once they're done, and we can hopefully all enjoy them with a tub of Ben and Jerry's together. So yeah, anyway, that's the basses then. They all go into this final group, my all bass group, and I bought a really great plugin recently, which I love, which I'm using a little bit on my mastering chain as well, which is the Shadow Hill mastering compressor. And I basically use this on the bass as well, and yeah, I'm like still kind of learning with it. And oh, big ups Mark in the house. But yeah, like I can't really tell you exactly the best way to use it because I literally got it like a week or two ago. But I used it to master this song, not on its own, like it's part of my like kind of whole mastering chain, but it's like a new important part to the chain.
because I feel like, yeah, you can get a nice warm analog kind of sound with it. And the great thing about this one is you can mix it in. So once I've like messed with all the settings and not really known what I've done, I can just mix in the effect, and I can see that it actually has provided a bit of like extra warmth and like power to the song. And here I'm just using it like on my bass group, and on the other bass group, other plugins on the bass group are like a bunch of side chains. So I'm sort of just doing all the side chaining on the group, and then like a little bit of EQing, taking out the stereo, like sort of around, I guess here I've gone like a little bit higher, like 126. And then I've got Fire, like doing a bit of saturation on the whole bass group, just a little bit. But yeah, so let's see if we can hear the difference with the Shadow. If I turn that off. I don't know if you guys can hear it through YouTube compression or whatever, but I can hear like it's a little bit more powerful and warmer down there in the low end. And yeah, it's a subtle one, but because like obviously all the basses are already designed like quite powerful, and they've already got like a really loud sub in them, so like I can't do too much more to them, so it's quite a subtle like little mastering tweak on the group, but it does definitely help. And yeah, it's a great plugin. I love it. It's one of my favorites now for like last minute stuff. Yeah, so there we go. Then we got our basses. And anything else to say about those? Like there was one other thing I wanted to mention, which was one of the great things. This is a bit of a secret trick. Well, it's not really a secret trick, but it's just in this track, it's like one of the coolest parts about the layering on it. But so don't tell anyone else about it. But yeah, this main sound, the main character, I made like a reverb with it separately. And this reverb was just like the perfect fit for it. So it puts it in such a big space, and together this like you got this main powerful like energy orb sound, and then this huge reverb layer with it, and like the combination of those two is what make it sound so good. Because without that reverb layer, like it's good, but it's still quite dry. But when you have it in the mix with that reverb layer as well, it gives you that final like stereo push. But what was important was like the choice of the reverb, like the exact like specific convolution, or like just I don't remember like which one I used, and it doesn't matter because like every sound that you have like will go through a different reverb differently. So it's just about training your ears to like find the best combinations. But like so finding a good fitting reverb like for like a main sound can like just 10x like that effect of that sound. And so yeah, I've like bounced it out as a separate file. I'm treating it like a layer, like so it's a new like layer that I'm putting in the sound that's just been reverbed massively. And then like taking out the low end, 500 hertz, always like a great basis point for where to cut reverbs from. So yeah, that was the last little bonus tip for the basses. And then yeah, let's move on. We got a couple of things left, and we have some leads here. I don't know what they are. Yeah, they are leads in a sense because they're quite sort of musical. Like they're kind of like, like sort of mid basses that are a bit higher up, more like synthy stuff. But in general, you can see they're not really having much bass in these leads. So I'm sort of cutting them at around 250. I always like to think about leads as like things at 250 and above. Yeah, I like. a lot of these reverbs have like loads of reverb on as well. So it's like it's almost like the priorities still with the drums and like the mid basses, and you know the leads are like that kind of extra 20%, 25%, you know, addition to the track, but you know they're a bit quieter. They're like more reverbed and less low end in them. So that's like kind of my leads. They just complement what's already going on. So not much else to talk about them. Obviously, like how I chose them, how I composed them, you know, that was all kind of done at the time, you know. Can't tell you exactly what was going through my head then, other than probably my coffee's gone cold again or something like that. Anyway, nice to have Mark in the house, and a lot of minimal D&B uses reverb, E-basses like this. It's nice to hear it in a funky context. Yes, Paul, big ups. Yeah, the more minimal, the more kind of reverb you gotta. You got more space to do stuff with reverb, and if you try to treat it in as a creative layer rather than just like reverbing for no reason, you know, that's why convolutions are great, because you can find sounds that fit with each other. Yeah. On a production this size, how many buses would you normally run with? Says Martin. Well, yeah, so I can tell you exactly, because you can see them here. So what happens is I essentially just group things in like summing stacks, you know. In Logic, you can just like group them together, and that becomes like a bus essentially. So that's all we have here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 buses pretty much. Or I don't really see them as buses. I just treat them as groups. It's like it's more simpler in my head. So I've got, you know, a couple of these go into like another bus. So it is like buses still. But so basically with the drums, it's just like these two. So you've got the cymbal group, which goes into the drum group, and the drum group has the other kicks and snares and things that are already in there. And then I've got 2 bass groups, and they just go into like a final all bass group where I did like some little mastering on it. And then I've got separately a lead group, a vocal group, which we'll talk about next, and then an atmosphere, and then like a random like other intro sounds that I just kind of forgot about that just ended up in another group. So yeah, not too many, don't want to get too complicated with it. So here are the vocals then. And so basically, you know, I was kind of writing this track and I still wanted an element of the human voice in it. And so although it's not like there's no singing or anything, I just got this one cool vocal that I liked, which was "Just a minute and I'll give you the story." And it kind of tied in with like the parable track title, because obviously a parable is a story. And so how I just designed this to kind of work with the composition was just looping this part. And I don't know if you can see, but it should actually, I think, yeah, it's automated here. The volume automates up basically. And then what happens is,
Just a minute now, give me the story.
just before the drop, I have like the main vocal like on a louder like channel as well. Okay, so this one here is like a bit sort of reverbed. It's got like a convolution on it, so it's like a little bit reverbed and quiet. And then like just before the drop, I have like the main uncut vocal. And yeah, so this vocal, does it run through the track as well? I think maybe it does here. Yeah. So I'm using like the little tails from the vocal, you know, where they've been reverbed a lot as well, and I'm using that to fill out some of the background here. So that's like on the drop, you know. And yeah, you won't notice it in the composition on its own, but it adds to the energy. It's a hidden energy layer, which is very important to fill out the high end. So yeah, that vocal kind of sits in there. And then here there's like kind of a breather from the vocals. Because I bring in some like atmosphere stuff instead to fill out the background here, which we'll look at in a sec. And then when we move on, we come back to this third section, and I reintroduced that like vocal again here, the main kind of one. And it's all about the feeling with it, because it's not really about the lyrics or anything. It's more just the texture and like the faint, like noticeable human voice in the background. That's the idea. So your voice is kind of drawn to like the human sound. You know, you kind of pick up on that with your ears, and it's like at the back of the room. Yeah, so in context, it's just like quite interesting to have that in there for me, I thought anyway. Yeah, and then that kind of just repeats for the second drop, and then we have the second drop here is like a little bit different because I put a pitch shifter on, and if you hear it here,
Just a minute now, give you the story.
I just pitched it down an octave and just mixed it in a bit, just so it's like slightly different to the first drop.
Just a minute now, give you the story.
It's very like subtle, but like that's what the whole track is about, is just subtle things. So I enjoy that. Yeah, and then not much else to say about the vocal there. Pretty simple little just chopping up of a sample and like making a few versions with reverbs on and stuff like that. And then atmosphere wise, like what have we got? Element wise, we've got some crackle. I think this crackle kind of plays out through the whole track, you know? So I've got some vinyl crackle like running in the background like the whole time, you can see here, like through the drop and everything. Then I've got like, what is this, a dusty saxophone? It's more like a bell or something, or like a theremin or something. It's not really a saxophone, but yeah. This is a cool layer that comes in like on the actual main second part of the drop here. I just like that pitched vibrato on it. It just kind of fit with the track, and it kind of like slows things down a bit in a way. But I like the sound. And then same thing here, but just like an octave lower, just in the intro. And then we got like, what we got here? some classic little wind chimes, and they're so like unnoticeable. Like they're really like the quietest thing in the song. I think you really don't hear them much, but I like having them in just for fun. And then what else have we got? We got, I don't know what that is. Random little thing that I designed by mistake, probably. Something that I tried to make cool and didn't work, so I just ended up doing something with it in the background. Also like jingling. This is actually during this part is actually really something that I like. So this third 16, there's a lot of like jingling, like, and like weird percussive hits, but they kind of like all like fill out the background here. So like I mentioned, it's a very like sound design heavy track, so there's a lot of like Foley and things like that in the background. And yeah, again, the intro Moss is basically just another kind of group of more like more background sounds. But basically, the reason I did it as a separate group is because these are the sounds that are only like not in the drop, they're only like in the intro. So I wanted to keep all the low end in on them. And these other atmosphere sounds that we played just a second ago that are like playing over the main sort of parts of the drop, I wanted to really make sure that I took out the low end, you know, just the main like part of the low end. Because some of them have a bit of rumble down there, and I didn't want any of that in there. But like in the intro, it was like fine for me to have some of that rumble. So here we got like... We got more like drones and like low end pads and things like that. So I wanted to keep the low end in for those, for the intro. So we got like... It's a cool like just sample that I found that just kind of fit. It got this kind of like old school feeling on it, and I really like that. And then... Okay, some random sort of synth thing. It's kind of like my main drone, I think, there. we got two kind of drones going on. This one and this one. A little bit of a glass hat. I don't know what that's doing. Not much. Yeah, cheeky little drum break in here as well, actually, that's like super, super low passed.
And it's like a really punchy, sort of almost like neurofunk drum break, but you don't hear it anywhere else in the song. It's like only in the intro, and it's just super like filtered. Here's a little teaser of one of the like kind of mid basses as well.
Just a minute and I'll give you the story.
But yeah, those are like sort of the main elements, and
I realise I'm not explaining this like in
the best order maybe, but
yeah, just running through,
what sounds are actually in the song,
I suppose.
and there's 115 of them. But importantly, they're all grouped, you know, so I can sort of control them and not get too scared of what's going on, because at the end of the day, like, I know that on my drop, you know, all my atmosphere and lead sounds, I know that I've got to EQ all the low end out of them, and I can just do that on the group at the end, and then it's like no problem really, because that's the main like issue.
and then same with the vocals. Like I kind of have like, I've actually EQ'd the vocals like a lot on the whole group.
They're like just really in the high end,
And then
yeah, all the basses, like I'm gonna just sidechain them all on the group, so I'm not having
like some of the individual hits, like they might have had like
a little bit of sidechaining done to them like at the time,
but like in general, I'm just gonna go over and do it all again.
like in the group, just to make things like easier.
And then yeah, my cymbals, like I told you at the beginning, like we had loads,
But a lot of them are like really quiet and in the background.
and again, like I'm doing processing on the whole group, and I'm doing like a little bit of sidechaining on them, and like
Compressing them to make them all like fit with each other.
and then they all go into the drums, and then like the drums are like
Yeah, pretty clean on the group, to be fair.
yeah, that's like I think
In the duration of this live stream, we've pretty much gone for like exactly 1 hour, so I think it's a good time to stop. But I think in the course of this live stream, I've dropped a few gems, I would like to think, amongst all of the rambling. There's a few gems in there that you might learn from, so I hope you guys appreciate that. And yeah, hope you guys like
the song.
as well. And yeah, just wanted to again just say thanks to everyone for being part of the channel.
And yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, big ups, guys. I hope you're all gonna have a wicked weekend. If I get time on the weekend, I might do a little bit of phase plant sound design or something like that.
And yeah, man, it is Cymbals for Days. And do you know, on the song I'm just starting now, I'm starting a new song, and I did like I'm like programming a hi-hat loop, but using like real hats, and like doing it like really specifically, and it's just like much better. And so here I've used like a lot of loops and layered them together, which is great as well. But like I'm doing some more like individual hat like sequencing on the next song, which is going to be, yeah, hopefully even make it even better. So it just takes more time and more effort, but hopefully it will pay off.
But yeah, like I'm surprised that there's that many cymbals. I don't really know why. Like I am a bit shocked to see that. There's some like snare layers in here as well. And yeah, like like I said, a lot of them are like background ride filler kind of textures, and there's like just a few of them are probably the main like hats, like 2 or 3 main hat loops, kind of the work together.
Yeah. Thanks, Discarded Telepathy, for enjoying the stream.
Thanks, Rudy Loops. I'm glad you liked the info. Shout out to Mark again, and yeah, no worries.
Happy to talk about music.
As always, absolutely love it. So yeah, if you guys want one-on-one sessions, hit me up. If you guys want to support
The channel, join Patreon, or buy the track, or go on my website and get some merchandise. I've got some cool new
beanie hats and some shirts as well.
some Artifact shirts. Yeah, not much else to say for today, really, other than thank you and have a great weekend. Peace out, much love. Don't do anything I wouldn't.
Ciao for now. Ciao Bella. Arriba.